so many people getting engaged.
Honestly,
And
what the fuck?
and I and I maybe this can be our segment because
Okay.
I feel like I honestly feel like strongly about it, and to the point that I'm like, this makes me angry.
Okay, that is okay, so why?
I don't know. It just like I don't know how to word it in a way that doesn't make me sound like a brat. So like here I go. But I just feel like I've been with Chris for so long, and I'm like, I've worked so hard for this relationship. Like, are you that it almost is like, are you that bored?
Huh.
That's how I'm looking at it, which is like, I know definitely rude and like not my place because everyone loves differently. And I just feel like when I look at Instagram sometimes and I see these pictures of people getting engaged, I'm like, would you be doing that if COVID wasn't happening?
That's a good question. Maybe people feel as if COVID has really strengthened their relationship. They've
Right.
been able
Okay.
to
So
spend
I'm
so
just
much time
cynical.
together. They've been able to like kind of like, you know what I mean? I feel like it's been such a time of difficulty for so many people
Yeah.
and they've been spending like so much time. You get to really know that person in and out. Like no one is very few people are at their best right now. Some people
Hmm.
are thriving, but I feel like very few people are like on top of the world. And so if
That's
you can
true.
love someone at that, then maybe people are feeling that is like, let's just seal the deal. We already know we can do this. Let's get a move on and put the engagement on the board because we already know there's going to be a million weddings in 2021 because everyone in 2020 got to miss theirs.
Yeah. And babies. I know
And babies.
when I went to the gynecologist, there are a lot of women in there preggers, and I was like, at least your quarantine's fun.
Yeah, good for them.
But
I
yeah,
don't know.
it's really interesting to look, and also just like seeing a couple friends get engaged. I'm just like, what? Like maybe it's just like we are getting older, and I just feel like I still have this mentality like I'm still a kid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I have no interest in getting engaged until I mean, if ever, let's be honest, but not until I'm at least like in my late 20s. And that might be because I saw my parents get married so young and then life
Hmm.
really started for them, then they had kids, etc. And so part of me also wonders how much religion is a part of it. You know, my
That's
parents
true.
got engaged super young, huge reason being religion, and they wanted to be together, but they were like, we date for marriage. And I think a lot of people
Mhm.
feel like we date for marriage and we found this person, they're a good match. And I'll never forget, Chris, what your boyfriend said to me whenever I was dating and, like, just not really committed to dating, and he said, "Well, I hear it gets a whole lot worse once you graduate," and so I feel like not to say that this is what people getting engaged are doing, I don't know their lifestyles, but are people like, "Well, this is who I met, this is who I know, and, like, it gets a whole lot worse from
Yes.
here, so I'm just gonna slap a ring and call it a day." I don't know, that's
No, no,
cynical
I
too, though.
agree. I was just gonna say, it almost feels like when you get married to someone, it's like you're being forced to settle down, whatever settling down means. I just feel like I associate it with negative thoughts. Like settling down, I think of like, let's sit in rocking chairs and drink hot tea and just reflect on life. And like, I'm not even I just turned 23. Like, why would I want that? Anyway, obviously we're different. Everyone's different from each other, but every time I open up my Instagram, it's like someone else is getting engaged or someone else is doing something, and I'm just, the timeline. And, in Alexia and Dylan's podcast, Alexia talks a lot about the timeline. I think recently I've really been thinking about that.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting how she talked about, the people she's comparing to herself right now are already
Mhm.
engaged or married or have children, and I'm really curious. I watched this movie recently about it's called Plus One. It was this romantic movie, super funny. It was really funny, 10 out of 10 recommend, it's on Hulu, and they just were going to all these weddings and everybody being married and engaged, like, put on this pressure when in the late 20s to, like, also be married and also get engaged and start having kids, and just I don't want it. I don't want that pressure. I don't wanna look at Instagram and be like, "Fuck."
Yeah. No, and like I was actually just talking to my mom about it too the other day on a walk, and I was like, Sometimes when I think I wanna get married to Chris, like, I think I eventually will have that happen, but when I think about, like, Chris public speaking in front of, like, 50 plus people, I imagine him, like, having a heart attack and, like, not being okay.
Well, I listened to this podcast recently, and it was by one of the people that I really like. She wrote this book called The Art of Gathering, and it's all about how you
Mm.
make gatherings and like special occasions, what they're supposed to be for like the people hosting it and what you need. And so she talks about like baby showers, for an example, and how they were originally a thing because a young couple, they had kids super young, they needed financial support, and it was mostly the woman doing the work, so the woman gathered, and that has, like, been kept the same, and instead of, like, being a gathering to support the woman, it's now like, "Oh, let's play games," and like, "Oh, what's the baby gonna do?" Or I
Oh
don't know,
my
it's dumb
god.
games, and so she talks a lot about, like, what do you need, and one of the examples that she gives is at the baby shower, instead of everyone like playing these funny games, the pregnant woman was like, I really need to know that I can do this and I can do hard things and I need to be supported. And so everyone was asked to come with a story for that woman of like when she's been strong and like showed up and been powerful. And the baby shower was like, something that really made everybody feel
Oh my
good and right. And it was like what that person needed. And so I feel like she talks
huh,
about it a little bit with weddings too. And it's like, what do you need? Like, nobody needs to stand up and speak if they don't want to. Like, what are you trying to get out
right.
of that wedding? You don't need to like shove cake in somebody's face because it's tradition if that's not
Or
going to
that
help you.
what is that thing where they, like, have
The garter.
Yes! That's so gross. Can you imagine doing that in front of your parents?
Yeah, so it's kind of like you don't need to do those traditions if that's not going to help you achieve the goal that you're looking for at the end of the day.
Mm,
And I feel that way about weddings.
that's so interesting,
So Chris
yeah.
doesn't need to even public speak if it's not going to help him achieve the goal. It's all really it's
We
really
just, like,
all about just
fist bump at the altar. Yeah, I do really think that's interesting, Whitney. I feel like, yeah, it's gonna be 2021, like, why would you follow all of those traditions? Like, make your own.
yeah, just work with what you want, but also I'm not even getting married, so I don't know. I remember talking to a friend of ours and she was talking about how like the wedding is mostly for her parents and
Yeah.
like that's okay too. And also I'm not even being married. I'm not an expert. I don't want to get married. I just think it's so crazy. My mom at this age would have been married for 4 years.
Yeah. I can't even can you oh my god. That's just like that I obviously don't have words.
And, like, she will say things to me like, "Oh, is the only reason you and Paul, like, my partner, aren't married is because of the finances?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not." Like, we are still learning each other, we're still figuring each other out, like, there's still so much on the table to be sorted out, and, like, that's not something that I'm prioritizing or he's prioritizing. And it's not
Yeah.
because we don't have enough money to get married. I mean, we don't, but at the same time, if we wanted to
Yeah.
get married, we would do something else.
No.
So I just feel like it shows the difference in like, oh, well, you guys are living together. I think a lot of people could look at me and be like, Whitney's settling down. She's got a dog and a boyfriend and an apartment and two full-time jobs.
Yeah.
So, like in the household, but I don't feel like I'm settling down. Fuck that.
Not today, Satan. It just makes me feel a type of way.
It's also like, I don't know, it's like what are the next steps after you graduate? It's like kind of like timeline. What are the big I remember very vividly my 4th grade teacher put this big line on our whiteboard. She must have been having a midlife crisis. Have I ever told you about this?
I
And
think I
she put all of the years, right, on the timeline. And she's like, "Okay, this is really great. You graduate elementary school, you graduate middle school, you get a license, you can drive now. You graduate high school, you go to college." And like she like put all these milestones and then she's like, "What the fuck happens?" Well, she didn't say that. We were in 4th grade. But she was like, "Can anybody tell me like what happens after 30? Like what's there to look forward to?" And I just remember she had to be having a midlife crisis because she just put
Whoa.
all of these milestones on the board and was like, "What's next?"
She's just
Anything?
asking, like, you youngsters for
Yeah, like,
advice.
what do you see your parents looking forward to? And, like, no one had shit to say, and maybe this is
Wow.
kind of like everyone not everyone, that's a really broad overstatement, but people are looking at it and like, "What's next?" Like,
No,
"What's in
I
the
really
timeline?"
I do think in some retrospect, everyone has that. Like, you have to have a timeline in your head. Like, most people, I mean, you have to. That's just how you go through life. You think about what is the next step I need to do, regardless if you think it's like marriage or whatever. You always are
Yeah.
thinking about what's next.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I feel like
You
most
know, I'm there
people
too. So, yeah, this week on the pod, we have Alexia and Dylan, and they are our first couple that we interviewed. And
What a hoot. The 2 of them
honestly,
together,
cutthroat.
such an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, like, you can really tell that there's definitely a reason why they're together. Um,
Mhm.
it's just really funny how it came across as an interview rather than just, like,
Yeah.
hanging out with them. As an interview, I think it was really showcased.
I know, I feel like I almost hope that we didn't expose them too much. But overall, it was really good. They talked about a lot of different things from what it's like to be, a female in a workplace when you want to have a family, and to like trying to figure out how to respect each other and not feel guilty when you can't spend time
Oh,
with one
guilt, that
another.
was a
That was
good
really interesting to
conversation.
me. And the whole long distance relationship and what that's been like for them since they've graduated their undergrad and where they are now. So it was really cool to talk to them, and we hope you guys really enjoy it.
Yeah, learned some things. They gave a lot of good advice. So remember, as always, like, comment, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Let us know who you want to see next or what you want us to do next. Your girls need some fresh ideas. So let us know and enjoy.
All right, thanks everyone. Alexia, do you want to start? We'll do the
Okay.
personality test. So, we're going to ask you two questions. The first
Okay.
one, I want you to tell me your favorite item of clothing. Think about it and then tell me three reasons why it's your favorite article of clothing. So, I love like my Minnesota sweatshirt because it's like durable and warm and reliable. um so yeah, what's your favorite item of clothing and 3 reasons why? Dylan,
Mm,
that face, I can't even. Come on.
Just so honestly, I choose to ignore him when he does things like this with me.
I'm thinking about what Alexia's gonna answer.
Oh,
Aw.
okay. I hope it's similar to
Okay,
mine.
whenever you're ready, we're
Um,
ready.
I would probably say sweatpants.
Yes!
Oh my god!
Yeah! Yes! Should have wrote that down. I'm so excited right now. Anyway.
That's
Okay,
surprising
Alexia, what are your 3 reasons why?
because they're really comfortable.
That was the first thing I put too.
Okay.
I didn't try 2 or 3, so I'm stuck.
So Dylan knows me pretty well. And that's my main reason. So um you can wear them like every day with I think with anything other people
They're versatile.
yeah, they're very versatile. And the third thing would be um I like that they're like loose fitting
Flexible.
because
Like, you like that they're flexible, like, you can move around in
yeah,
them, you don't feel constrained.
you can like exercise in them, you can
Yeah,
take a walk and not like be really sweaty. So
we're really big on the versatility
yes.
and the, like, flexibility of the pants and the comfort. Alright, I'm so into that. I think that's phenomenal. Alright,
That's
next
so
question
funny.
is 3 reasons why your favorite animal is your favorite animal. And you can't say dogs, because dogs is like everyone's like, "Oh, I love my dog, I love my cat," and, like,
I
valid.
feel like, though, Alexia could get away with that, though, because she's gonna be a vet.
Okay, that's fair. You're allowed
I
to
could
say
say like a
dog if you
Like,
want.
specific
she's
breed.
devoting her life to dogs.
I could say like a specific breed of dog to make it more like
Yeah, if you want, if literally this
impactful.
favorite
Okay.
breed, this breed is your favorite animal, like, please let's
Okay. I would say a Labrador Retriever because I grew up with them my whole life, but I think that they're so like welcoming to any human. They're very energetic. And they when they greet you, they're just like all about making you feel loved. And the third reason would be like loyalty. I feel like they're always there for
Yeah.
for you.
I think that's solid. Tess, you want to tell her what her personality means?
This is so interesting. Okay.
That is
Wow.
really interesting. I'm really into it.
So, okay, so the animal is how you see yourself.
Okay.
So you see yourself as a Labrador Retriever, welcoming, energetic, makes you feel loved and loyal.
I do see myself.
Dylan's like not even reacting. I have like tears in my eyes.
Sounds like I
Well,
think
so
someone
cool.
just emailed me.
Yeah. That's it.
The article of clothing is how other people see you. So you said sweatpants, which are comfy, versatile, loose fitting. So I said like breathing room, like you know how to give people their space,
I like that.
flexible. So I think do you think that that's accurate for you?
I think so.
Yeah, I
That's
feel like
so
you're very.
What do
I
you
feel
think,
like you're-
John? Do you think that-
I think it's accurate.
I think Alexia, you're very warm and welcoming, and you
Thank
don't
you.
make anybody. I felt very comfortable around you when I met you for the first time, and you showed up at our apartment. I think after like running across, like the entire downtown to get to Tessa's on time for the surprise, and
Oh,
like
that's
you're
funny.
very warm. You're a very warm human being. So I feel
Thank you.
like probably physically.
Literally running like a Labrador
I was like,
Retriever.
yeah. Yeah. With my tongue out.
All right, Dylan, it's time for you to be in the hot seat. Okay, so here are the tarot cards. You've never done anything like this before?
Come on, Tess, you know the answer.
Okay, so I'm gonna need you to tell me if you want to pick a card from the top, the middle, or the bottom.
The first third.
What feels right?
The
What?
first third.
You're so weird. Okay. Let's see what this is. Okay, so you got the card 2 of Pentacles.
Ooh.
Let's see. You're experiencing all the busy challenges of everyday life and handling it gracefully. You're in sync with the rhythms of the world, and every movement and decision feels like a perfectly orchestrated dance. As long as you are adaptable and flexible, you'll be able to continue this dance.
Just like Alexia's sweatpants. So
How we go together?
yeah.
Do you think that that's like relatable to how you're feeling right now with like work and school and everything going on?
Actually, I think that's like I'll give you credit. It's like somewhat. It's like more relatable now than it would have been in like October by all stretches. Yeah, because I'm kind of like caught up now in a lot of things where I felt like about a month ago or 2 weeks ago, even because of finals, like I was more behind. Where like now I'm like starting to kind of get ahead of my work. So yeah, I think that's actually pretty relatable.
Wow, moving through life like a dance. Congratulations.
Wow, the tarot cards got the stamp of approval.
Well,
All right, well, I guess we can jump right on into the pod. Okay, so why don't we kind of start off with you guys maybe talking about your relationship, who you are for one another. I feel like that could be straightforward, but at the same time, not everyone listening knows. And this is the first time we've ever interviewed someone like this with, you know, you guys having a relationship. So maybe talk about your history, connection, all that jazz.
I told Dylan he should answer this because it's gonna be very
you
long.
telling me to go first on this one?
Yeah. I'll fill in.
Well, should we introduce ourselves first?
I feel like that will come naturally, but sure, Dylan. Dude, this is your podcast, so take it away. It's one big rant.
Oh, geez. So Alexia and I started dating in 2019 on February 14th. Yes, Valentine's Day.
So cheesy.
I know.
Romantic.
Very cheesy. So we've been dating for almost 2 years now. We met because we were both in Ag Advocates, which I know, Tess, I've heard you talk about a lot in the program before. So we were both in Ag Advocates, and that's how we kind of became like friends and got together and got to know each other. And I think we first hit it off because we have a pretty similar personality, or we both are like willing to like put ourselves out there, talk to anyone, and like I don't know, like just that. Yeah, I guess that much. So like naturally, we just like chatted and got along well. And then
Interesting. Did you guys always get along though? Did you think that you were going to end up with each other? I just think
To
it's
date each
interesting.
other?
You don't have to answer that if you don't want to. I just think that I knew you two individually before I knew you two together. So I don't know. I think it's just one of those things I like to ask sometimes when people are in relationships.
like, did I think I would know that we would end up together once like I
Yeah.
met her?
You know,
No.
some people like there's like sparks flying. No, okay, that's fine.
Well, we've had this conversation before.
Yeah, I asked him, I was like, when you saw me, was it like love at first sight? And he was like, no. And I was like,
I
I was like,
love
"All right."
that.
We
I'm sorry.
love it. Cold cut and brutal.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, well, for me personally, I like told myself I wasn't going to date like another person in our student organization. So that's also part of the caveat of why I was like never, because like to like be honest though, like Brandon, like my best friend, like he was always like 'cause I don't know, I think I like mentioned Alexia's name once, or I think maybe he like somewhat how met her through like maybe a snag advocate event he like showed up at or something. And I think he like said like, oh, you should ask her out. And I was like, I'm not asking out another ag advocate. And then
Oh.
the conversation ended.
Years
So
later.
Dylan's more logistical about things. That's good. Okay.
I
Alexia,
love
what's your take?
the logic.
I guess like, well, when I never thought that we would date either, but not in a bad but I think that it was like a similar thing where I was like, oh, we're in a professional program. Like, I never thought that would be like the place, I guess, where I'd like find someone. But I still remember like him vividly, like out of anyone else when I first started Ag Advocates, because of like how passionate he was, like presenting his presentation, and like just how much I felt like he was like very knowledgeable about everything. And I was like, oh, that like I admired him like from afar from the start. Like that was always like for how it came. But I was like, by the way, I really like you. And he was like, oh, I like you too. And then from there I did like a whole I'm so scared, I don't think I can do this. And he was like, are you kidding me? Like this and then, like eventually yeah, he was like, what the heck? And then eventually we did get together. And the funny story of it was though that we sang karaoke at a bar on Valentine's Eve, I guess. It was High School Musical. And when he got up there and sang Zac Efron's part of Breaking Free, I was like, okay, I have to date this kid. I was like, no other like guy would get up and sing Breaking Free in front of an entire bar.
Oh my god.
For a girl. So I was like, all right, we gotta do this. So then after that, I was like, all right, let's go.
God.
I love that is truly what sealed the deal. Like that was the like, and I get it, like you want somebody to embrace you and have fun with you and like not just be there for like the boring things or not just be like, oh, I'm embarrassed. Like I would never want to feel like my partner's embarrassed by when I want to do karaoke, and just the fact that like
Yeah.
you guys can be like excited and pumped to do that together, I think is just really beautiful. So I totally get that.
I also
it's
it's one of those things too, I feel like kind of knowing you guys, Dylan, I don't think you would do that with anyone else, like, or for anyone else.
Oh, probably not.
So I think that's really, you guys have something good when you know that you can do that and kind of go out of your comfort zone, but still be comfortable doing it. So I mean, we don't have to talk about all the nitty gritty details. I just thought it would be nice to kind of like let viewers know about who you are and who you are for each other. So like there's an understanding as to maybe why we're doing this with both of you. I'm sure it'll come up more about who you guys are for each other, but why don't we kind of talk about where post-grad life has taken you both geographically. I know that's something that's kind of been not just a strain on yourselves, but also your relationship, and just with COVID happening, and you're also trying to manage work, life, all these other things. So what has that been like? Where are you? That's a lot of questions. Pick what you want.
Take it away.
It is 8 p.m. on a Monday night. I'm exhausted.
Really do there.
It's all good.
Dylan, are you drinking coffee right now?
It has eggnog in it though.
Oh, festive.
Oh.
There's this like brand near, I mean, I don't know where else all in Pennsylvania, but it's only like I only found it in recent places near my house, and we really like it. It's really good.
Is it alcoholic or?
Oh no, yeah.
Oh.
It's
of
like
course.
very strong alcoholic. Yeah.
Oh.
It's very
God.
tasty. Yeah. Oh, I mix it with coffee.
Oh.
And nothing like drinking coffee at 8 p.m. on a Monday with alcohol.
Decaf.
Kudos to you. But yeah, geographically, I'm sorry to interrupt. I just saw that you were drinking, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even drink coffee at 8 p.m. on a Monday. So
I feel like that describes him well. Sorry, go ahead.
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to?
I could go first. We could like. So I am currently in Michigan at vet school at Michigan State University. And I'm a first year student, and all of our classes are online, so everything's been virtual. And I now am the president of the class, which is a really cool position to have, and it was nice for me to get to know people that way. But besides that, like nothing has really been in person, but I do like Michigan a lot more than I expected to. I think I thought like nothing really would be like out there, I guess, because I've never been out. That's the farthest I've ever been away from home.
Mhm.
So for me, it was like a big move, and I was like, I don't know what to expect. Like, but
Midwest, yeehaw! Here we
yeah, I was like, oh, we're going to the Midwest. Like, is it gonna be like all flat and going through?
Flat.
Because I went to visit Dylan in Iowa when he was on an internship, and so I just assumed that like all of the Midwest looked like Iowa. But it's actually a very nice place, and there's a lot of like hiking areas. And I was able to like actually run a lot more because it's flatter. So I was like, oh, I
Oh
don't
my
have to
god!
feel
That's
myself
such
going
a
up
good
this hill
point.
anymore. So,
I
and like
love
riding
that.
my bagel. So it's been good.
That's awesome. I love Michigan's gorgeous. It's like one of
Yeah.
those Midwest states that I feel like is underrated.
Oh
It is
yeah.
underrated.
I feel like they have so many roundabouts though. Is that just me being crazy? Because the last time I was there, I just remember being trapped in a roundabout, not being able to get out.
Yes, how many times have you gone to Michigan?
Okay, I went once, but it was like for a full like week and a half. So like we would always be going in the same area. So maybe it was the same roundabout over and over again. But I just remember this one experience. There was one day that we went to like a park or something with my cousins, and my dad was driving us. And we were in this roundabout, and we're like, Dad, it's this exit right here. And he's like, okay. And he kept going. And we're like, okay, Dad, you have one more shot. It's this exit. And he was like, okay. And we're like, Dad, it's right there. Dad's right there. And I'm like, oh. So we just kept going. And I was like, Dad, it's this one. And then we passed it again. It was at least, and I'm not even trying to be dramatic, 5 times because he was so uncomfortable getting out of the roundabout.
Scary. No, they are scary. At least when you miss the exit there, you could just keep going in a circle. So like
yeah, but it's also like kind of
it's like another hour.
terrifying.
That's like that one episode of New Girl where Jess is like trying to get her stuff back and like keeps driving past the apartment.
It's like next time.
And how about you? Where are you?
I live in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm a first year PhD student studying plant breeding and plant genetics. I actually started in June. So I moved to the Midwest a couple months before Alexia. So yeah, I moved out there. I was supposed to move out like a week into June, I think like June 8th, but then because of COVID, I wound up starting from the comfort of my house on the 15th and then moved out I think the week later, so like the 22nd or something.
Are you meeting people?
Not
This is
really.
a question to either of you. Like, are you meeting people in person at all, or what's that going like? Because you moved.
Well, so I think I've worked way more in person than Alexia, but Alexia's been able to hang out with more friends in person probably than I have. I think so. Like we were lucky that like we're a field research group, so if our summer got canceled, we would totally be screwed, for lack of better words. But thankfully, like that didn't have to be the case, so we could still work and just like maintain social distance while in the field, and we were outside, so it was fine. And then we have like a research center that I have to go to every now and then, not like for office work, but like if we have to like package seed or get things
Mhm.
ready, shipments to winter nurseries. And everything's like super like timely. So like, I mean, where we were thankfully like we're one of the groups that has like a lot of fee like waivers and things like that to allow the COVID restrictions. So I was with people constantly then if I was out there. And then I did my first project this fall in a research lab, which is thankfully again off campus. So it doesn't as much apply to all the research or all the restrictions that were in place. So I saw people more than for work, but when it came to making friends, it was really challenging. I have like, we'll hang out with like one of my lab mates a lot, and then every now and then like they'll have their friends over. But besides him, I've gone like biking once or twice with a couple of lab mates, but that's basically it. Everyone in Madison's like, I mean, like very understandably so, like very COVID cautious.
Yeah.
And the university itself, I think, is probably in, some of the most strictest, standards that I've seen. So they really definitely push to be super cautious.
Yeah, it's like people already have their bubbles and they're like, well, I already am seeing X, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like everyone already has their 5-person bubble, which is really responsible and great. But like,
Yeah.
how do you become that much of a priority in somebody's life within like 3 months to be a part of their bubble and like
Yeah.
them to trust you, So I
Yeah.
get that. It's cool that you're able to work in person and get outside a little bit. And Alexia, I'm glad you were able to like see friends or make friends or what's that been like to like go to class virtual. I don't know, just crazy time.
I know. It's been, yeah, it's definitely hard to I was like jealous of how much he got to be in person. I was like, you get to go in? Like I literally didn't get to go in.
Yeah, you're a Labrador Retriever. You love people.
I do. I love people. I'm very extroverted, and I was like, I want to meet everyone. And so I started early on to like on our class Facebook page, trying to think of like ways to meet people. So I like
Can we
kept
like talk about that for a second? Like the fact that you're the president of
yeah.
your class. Like you glossed over that. Like that's a big feat to like be in
Yeah.
charge of that many people.
Yes, it is a big feat.
How does that feel? Do you feel like there's pressure or anything with that?
I originally wasn't going to because I was like, oh, like in undergrad I did so much. I was like, I'm just gonna like take a seat this time and like focus on that school, focus on just like on school for once instead of doing like 10 million things. But then someone actually messaged me because I was so active on the Facebook page trying to get to know people, and they were like, "Oh, you should run for president." And I was like, "Okay, I'll try it."
Wow.
Can't unlearn the workaholic tendencies.
Yeah, I know. I was like, "Yeah, why not?" Didn't take
Always
much
in the
to get there.
veins.
Yeah. So then I ended up winning, and it's definitely, I'm thankful because I think I've been able to meet more people because of that. And a lot of people like know my name now, and I almost feel like I'm in high school again because it's a class of like 115 people, and in my class
Wow.
at school it was like 141. So I'm like, oh, I feel like everyone kind of like to go from a class of like or a school of like 40,000 to a class of 115 was a large transition. And um it's kind of nice though to like go back to like what I was comfortable with originally.
Mhm.
And I think that helped me to like make more friends that way. And I think as president too, I've been coming up with like ways of meeting people through Zoom. So we had like a paint and wine night, but it was like over Zoom, and we all had like a paint by number thing that we were painting. So like it was good to talk to people that way.
That's so cute. You're so creative.
So I was like just finding any way to like get
Honestly,
together
those
with
paint by
people.
number things look so cool. Like my one friend was doing it and it literally looked like she was creating art, but she was just
Yeah.
casually painting them in every night. Like that's so
They're so
cool.
small too. Like it takes like a long. I'm still on like number 4, and I've had it since like the beginning of school. So like,
So you guys are both really, big time ballers over here doing the thing, taking care of yourselves. How has it been, from, having school together at Penn State, being with each other when you could be with each other, to then being in two different states, being extremely busy, trying to find friends, trying to navigate COVID? How has that been for your relationship and for each other? I mean, I don't want to always bring it back to that, but I mean, we are interviewing you together. So, and I mean, a lot of people are experiencing, long distance relationship in post-grad life. So what has that been like? And do you have advice for people?
You want to go or do you want me to?
We love the communication.
I like that.
That's key. Yeah.
I mean, I think the one good part about you mentioned about us being like really busy is that that's actually like somewhat helpful. I mean, it can somewhat also be a nuisance, and like that because then we like put off like talking to each other and like instead of like because we have to get work done, but like at the same time, it's kind of helpful because like so we're in slightly different positions, but I think we're in closer positions than if like say I was working and she was in vet school. Because like I refer to my like current situation like as work in a way, but at the same time I'm also a student, so it's like a weird delicate balance, and you're not like I don't also consider myself just working for like my PI or like the university. I can also consider myself working for myself. So it's a different delicate balance where so I think like we can both understand each other's schedules, that we are like super busy, and that means like you can't talk every night or like you can't always answer your phone or yada yada, the list goes on. But
Yeah.
I think that's actually been like kind of helpful with it. And like COVID's terrible, and I feel really awful for like everyone who's experiencing a lot of the traumatic issues it's health and finances regarding it. But like for our relationship, it's actually been kind of helpful in a way because we've been able to spend more time together, to be honest with you. Like Alexia came to my apartment for like almost half of October, something like that, Alex.
Yeah, it was like at least 2 weeks.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah. And then I went to Michigan for like 10 days, like once or twice. So, I mean, so in that aspect, it's actually been kind of helpful. But I think my biggest piece of advice would probably just be to have like the like hard conversations like up front and like chat about something versus trying to have them on the phone when you're both frustrated, because that probably would not work out. I'm no expert, but I'm gonna say it's not gonna. Like
no, that's
yeah.
I have a tendency of overthinking and then just calling Chris and just yelling for no reason. So that's really important, Dylan. I'm happy you said that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think we were pretty both upfront of like, I will probably be able to talk to you this much. And like, I'm not like not texting you back because I'm blowing you off. I'm not texting you back because like I'm listening to my classes for like Alexia, or like I'm working, or like,
Yeah. I really appreciate that, Dylan, and both of you, because as somebody that loves work and truly does it all of the time, I've had significant others in the past that like don't understand that and see it as like neglect or priorities that like because sometimes for some people it's like, what do you mean work is more important than me? And it's like, it's not that it's more important, but like in some days it is, and like that's okay. And I'm really curious, like that takes some level of working through that together. And like, how did you get to a point where you were like, yeah, I respect what they do and they respect what I do. And if I'm like having a, board on a Friday and I feel alone, but they already told me they're going to be at this research lab and working until midnight, like, how are you okay with that?
You want to go, Lex? You want me to?
I
think it's impressive.
Yeah.
And
I can go.
I really do, because I mean, I think that's why so many relationships fail, when one person is like values work so much and you both are so incredibly passionate, so honorable.
Yeah, and there's no like I remember thinking like there would have been a power struggle between you two because you both are very dominant people. But I feel like there hasn't really been one so far. So obviously you're doing something right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's true.
Like I feel like normally
I've never tried to like plant problems in your mind.
like you haven't thought of that one before. I'm almost concerned.
I think I actually asked him, I was like, I think one day I was like, so usually like in a family dynamic of like the one person works for the most part and the other person like works but like not as much as the other person, but I was like, we both like to work a lot. So like how are we so we've talked about it.
Yeah.
But I think that it is hard. And I think that Whitney, what you said, especially about there are times where I think I actually thought I was gonna be busier than Dylan going into it. And I kept telling him, I was like, I'm not gonna have time. Because I think everyone kept telling me in vet school, they're like, you're gonna die. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna die. And so I like went into
No, I vividly remember like
Buckle up.
I'm meeting up with Alexia before she went off to vet school, and she was like, I just want to let you know. Goodbye. And I was like, what's happening? Are you dying? Or she was like, well, I feel like that's what's happening. My soul is about to be crushed. So just be mindful. I might not be myself.
because that's literally what people kept telling me. They're like, you're gonna like struggle so much. And I was like, okay. So I just like went into vet school being like terrified of like what was to come. And it ended up being that Dylan is a lot busier, I think, at most times than I am. And because he's like also in person, there's a lot of times where he'll be working later because he'll be in the office until like 6 p.m. At least. And then like there are times where like I'm on a Friday, like not doing anything because you can't do like that much anymore on the weekends. And I'm like, oh, I just want to talk to him, but like he's busy. So like it is hard for me sometimes, like during those situations where, and even with breaks, like I've been on break now since I don't even remember, the 14th, I think. And so I've just been like, I've been working like for my dad's store, but other than that, like I don't have any schoolwork where like he has to continue to work until basically Christmas Eve. So like even now on break, like our breaks don't line up either. So like that's been tough too. But I think like just understanding that in 4 years, like I guess like it's temporary too. Like this won't be how it always is. So like putting in the work for these 4 years, I know that like at the end we'll be able to have more free time because
Yeah.
we've done all that work now. So I think that's how I kind of like think of like the big picture instead of just focusing on like, oh, he can't talk to me right now. And like I think I said up front to him, like, oh, if you don't text me back right away, sometimes I get like anxious about that because I think that like I said something and it was wrong or like I offended you. And so I think because he knows that now, he actually will tell me, he'll be like, just so you know, I'm in a Zoom call, or like, just so you know, I didn't answer you because I was like running errands. And I appreciate that because it's like very open communication of me being like, this is what gives me anxiety, and him being like, okay, I respect that. Here's what I'll do to like communicate with you of like what, like kind of like to work with you on that. So
I love
Wow.
that. And I have like an
So
entirely
healthy.
so healthy. And I have an entirely selfish question that I want to know for my own personal life. So maybe either you can shed some insight. Feel free to answer. So I work a lot more than Paul does. Not
Mhm.
really. I mean, he works a lot, but I have like other side projects and like I think I might end up being at my computer for longer, whatever. And sometimes I feel like this internal guilt about that because I'm like, how am I like, am I but he doesn't give a shit at all, but I say that he gives a shit,
Yeah.
and so how do you work through do either of you ever feel guilty because you don't feel like you're able to provide for, that other person? And if so, how do you deal with that? That's such a heavy question, but I feel I make up guilt in my brain that I don't need to have because I personally internalized it and decided that this is how somebody feels without asking them, and then I feel horrible, and I'm like, "Well," and then I talked to him, he's like, "Chill the fuck out." And I'm like, "I don't know how to stop the guilt generating brain cells." So if either of you know, let me know. If not,
I,
like that's just what I'm experiencing.
no, I am the same way. I don't know, Dylan, you can go first if you want.
I'm thinking on the advice portion. I think like we've definitely had that experience before. I mean, like for example, like I think Alexia came to visit me like one time when I was like one of the most stressed. It was like midterms week. I was in the middle of trying to like I worked this so like most of the semester I was really busy because I was working on like a side project on top of like my normal project and classes and just like transitioning to graduate school life. And so like I constantly had to go into like the lab. And so I was trying to get samples out the door. Like Alexia's here, so also like wanted to naturally spend time with her. But I also had like 2 exams, other stuff.
Yeah,
Like it was just,
everything.
yeah, it
Got
just
it.
like it was crappy time. And I think I definitely knew like I felt horrible because I was like, I literally like cannot like watch a movie tonight or can't even watch an episode of New Girl. Like I have stuff to do. Like, and I think I don't know. I think the way I probably worked through it was I don't know if this really helps you get over the guilt, but I know Alexia, like I always will make a point to tell her like thank you like for what you do and like thank if you made dinner like for example because like she would try to like make dinner more like that week. I was like really appreciative, so I was like thank you, like I really appreciate that, and like take that time to be off my laptop, which like even though it was 20 minutes or whatever it was, like it made me feel a little bit better because I was like I'm literally giving you everything I got tonight, love, like this is what I got, like I'm sorry. But I
Yeah.
don't know, that was my biggest piece of advice. And like I think like the shoes are probably like on the other foot in like September when I came to visit you.
Yeah.
So that's when like I think I
Because
clicked on
then,
it or
yeah,
something.
when he came to visit me was when I had my second exam, and it was like my first like systems class. So like it was the first class of like the first class we had was like an intro, and this class was like the first real class that we were having, and that's when he came to visit me. And so I was like studying all the time, and then like I felt really bad because I didn't really get to show him around East Lansing at all.
Mhm.
I think we went on like one bike ride, and then like when he left, I just felt so guilty about it. I was like, I'm so sorry. Like we said we were gonna do all this stuff that we didn't get to do because I was too busy. So it's definitely like that guilt is definitely there. And even when I visited him, I like literally broke down and cried the one day when he went to work. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do more to help you. Like I was like making dinner every night, and like I was like trying my best to like do, but I just like I felt bad that I couldn't like relieve the stress from everything that he was working on. But I think that was because it was the most stress I have ever seen him. And I think in
Mhm.
undergrad I was always the one that was like freaking out and stressed all the time. And so it's not that like he had like less of a load, it's just he handled it a lot better, I think, than I did in undergrad. And now it was like switching tables, so now I was the one that was like having more of a handle on like school, and like he was the one being thrown in like a newer situation that he wasn't as used to. And so I was like, oh my god, like I've never seen him this stressed, like what do I do, like how can I
Yeah.
help him?
I
So
feel like so all three of you have said like similar things. It almost feels like guilt is healthy and shows that you care a lot about that person.
That was very deep,
good
Tux.
point.
I
Yeah.
just I feel like is guilt really bad? I feel like guilt could actually just be a sign that you're like consistently thinking and actively trying to know like what you're doing and how it could be making the other person feel. It could be just a form of empathy.
Yeah.
I agree with that statement 100% because like the part of the reason like I text Alexia is like not just because I know it makes her feel better, but because like it makes me feel better, like because I do, I'm like, oh crap, like I would really like to be talking to you now, or like but like I know I have work to do, so I don't know. I think like it's kind of like when you miss someone, like it's kind of like a good thing. Like when I know, like when I miss like Alexia, I'm like, oh, that's good because it means like our relationship's real, and it means like the feeling I have for you like raw and genuine. Like I truly do love you, right?
Yes.
Where like so I think like guilt probably is some like I mean there's unhealthy guilt, but a
Mhm.
little bit of guilt I think is definitely pretty good.
Yeah. I think that's really interesting, Tess, and I agree with both of you. I think that guilt can be a healthy emotion that shows that you are thinking about maybe how you would feel in that situation. And I think where I struggle is thinking about how Paul would feel in that situation
Mm.
instead of like, you know what I mean? Because when I take myself outside of like, well, I would feel horrible, or like I would feel this way, or like I don't want him to be hurt, then it kind of gets better. I think it's healthy until it becomes like debilitating,
Mm.
or
Mhm.
like you feel like you're sacrificing what you wanna do because you feel guilt from that.
Yeah.
Or when somebody's forcing it on you. Like, it sounds like Dylan and Alexia, both your situations, like, you weren't going to Dylan being like, "How dare you plan all of this?" You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there was none of that, and I think that's very healthy. Like, that's solid.
Yeah, that is very true. And I think, I guess like the best advice, I realized I never really gave advice, but the best advice.
No, but I appreciate the relating to me. That's,
Yeah.
like, 90% all I need.
I think I guess just like talking, well, I agree with you, is I think a lot of times I like portray my feelings on other people too, and I'm like, I feel like this, so they must also feel. But I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dylan, but I feel like with guys it's never as big a deal in their head as it is in our head. Because half the time I ask him things and I'm like, oh my god, like I did this, like I can't stop thinking about it, and he's like, I don't even remember that. So I feel like half the time I feel
It's
guilty about
like they
stuff.
black out. They
I
have no
literally don't
idea.
remember it. And so
I know, they're like, I thought we were done fighting about that, like, 2
yeah,
days ago." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I just still feel like it's really heavy and, I don't know. Did we talk through it enough? Like, do you have any harboring feelings? And they're like, I don't even remember what happened. We're at Wegmans.
I was like, today when you texted me.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. It still happens. Right now, it's happening.
I literally did. I was like, do you ever just get mad? Like, I was like, do you ever have like a picture or something that you look at and like you just like remember like how I was mad that day? And he was like, I was like, okay, cool, thanks.
I think I was like, LOL, no.
Yeah, you were like, I don't know what you're talking about.
He was like, LOL, not psycho.
Yeah. I was like, just me, it's okay.
Back to
You're
computer.
like, right, okay, me either.
Yeah, that'd be
I was
weird.
like, I wasn't thinking that at all. Oh my God.
So let's transition a little bit. I'm so curious. So both of you had 4 years at Penn State, and now you're heading into more years of more school. You are the first people we've interviewed that actually have that for them and are experiencing it right now. So I'm just curious, like, how that feels, what it is like in terms of like the difference between being at Penn State. Obviously, there's a difference. I'm just, I don't know what that feels like because obviously a lot of the people we've interviewed are doing 9 to 5, doing other stuff. So what has that been like for you? And do you think it's heading you down your right path?
Do you want to go first? Do you want me to? Okay.
I gotta like cut that out after every question.
Well, I'm really bad at like interrupting or not knowing when to jump in on Zoom calls. Like 9 months of Zoom, I still haven't figured that one out yet. It's really annoying. That'll be the one thing I'm excited for when Zoom's over.
Take turns.
Yeah, go back and forth, ping pong. Anyway, so the question was, how's it going in this like
Yeah, like how does it feel?
life? Oh, I think the one thing I will say is I think it was kind of strange at first, to be honest with you. Actually, it was quite strange at first. Especially for me personally in the group I work for, I'm like the youngest. I'm the youngest by a lot. Well, like there's someone in it who's like 25, or I can't remember if he's 24 or 25 or turning 25, but he has a master's. So like, he's kind of been out of the game for a while, a little bit doing it. Beyond that, there's two people that are both 27, and like one of the people who's 27 has a kid and they're married, they have a house. And then my really close friend, the one I hang out with, he's 28 and married. We have someone who's 33, like they have two kids. So, and I'm like 22, just came out of undergrad. So that was super strange at first. And I mean, I would definitely not say that I'm at all completely used to it yet. And I don't think COVID helps that, because like almost like every time we'd see each other, like, it was like almost like a little retreat, because we couldn't see each other every day. So I couldn't get to know him as well. But so that was pretty strange at first. And like I said, I'm still getting used to it. And there's just like a lot to learn as like a graduate student, because you go from this like as an undergrad, I did research, but research is secondary and your classes were first. And like, depending on who you were as a person or what you thought was priority, like, your research projects came, maybe even third behind your clubs, where like now your research is first. Like it's your job. Classes supplement that. And if you choose to take on an extracurricular, that's just because you want to throw something on your plate, meet someone, or, maybe add a leadership experience to your resume. And like, it has to work in that order. And that's a transition.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think that was a little different. And I think I kind of felt like, undergrad, like, and not trying to like toot my own horn or anything like that, but like, I was more like the high person on the totem pole, like, it was like the president of like a club. And, in my lab, like, I was like the undergrad that everyone asked about, like, oh, what are we do? What's the projects for? Like, what does this lab do? Where like now I'm asking everyone like, okay, how the heck did you figure that out? Like, how did you do that analysis? Like, what class do you recommend? Do you recommend I go to Sean with this? Should I just, who do I ask for this question? So that was a weird transition, and I'm still getting used to it. But I think the last 2 weeks, especially now that like my classes have ended, it's been a lot better. I felt a lot better about a lot of things. And yeah, I feel like I'm definitely coming to be like now a contributing member versus just like a learning from others member of the lab.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's very similar to how, Whitney and I felt too when we went into our jobs, our roles. You just are immediately starting all over again at the beginning. The start, what is it? Starting? Nope. Gonna delete all this out because obviously she's tongue-tied. you're at the bottom of the totem pole, and that's really hard. And like you said, Dylan, you were really a spokesperson. I remember just in Ag Advocates, they'd be like, I don't know, Dylan, Dylan, Dylan. Like you were a lot of people's go-to for things. And I think that when now you're going to other people because they're your go-to, it's a little challenging to kind of navigate that and be like, okay, how do I get there again?
Right? Yeah. No, you go, Whitney. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I agree with you. I feel like after graduating, I was really humbled and continue to be humbled every single day. I almost think that in school, because you're only working within like, same thing with high school, you're only like, you just keep moving up in the rank as you get a year, and there's only 4 years. So like, it's not that hard. But I feel like now I'm like, holy shit, like you've been doing this for 20 years. You're incredibly impressive. You've done an insane amount of work. Like, I'm not going to be up there until who knows when.
Yeah.
And just like being humbled and respecting that and honoring that and learning from it has been a challenge, but also one that I'm like grateful and welcoming now, because I'm like, oh my God, look how much I can grow.
Very true.
But I appreciate you sharing that, because I think it's something a lot of people feel, kind of that renavigating again.
Oh yeah, I think so. You gonna go, Lex?
Yeah. I started at the bottom too, but I think for me it was like it's more school still. So it's still the same like structure. So I guess for me it was like less of a transitioning in that aspect of like the academics wise, but for me it was like going to a new area and having to like meet new friends, and because I think it took me 4 years to feel like at home at Penn State. For me, like my freshman year was like I had no idea what was happening. Like it was such a mess. And so I think like I was terrified going into vet school because I was like, oh my God, like, is it going to be like that again? Like, am I going to have to go through that like awful transition again? But it wasn't as bad like the second time. I think for me, it was because the classes my senior year were so challenging and I was like dying all the time. It actually helped me my first year of vet school because it's like a lot of it was like repeated or like just built upon. So like academically, I guess the transitioning wasn't as like hard as I thought it was going to be. But I think for me too, it's interesting, like similar to Dylan, is that a lot of the people in my class I'm definitely one of the youngest in the program. The age range is from 18 to like 50, I think.
Wow.
So
how does it feel to be the youngest? Like for both of you, like what has that been like? Just I feel like youngest automatically there's just something that goes along with that. I don't know what that is, but how does that feel?
I feel like, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, you can go.
Okay, for me, like most of the people in my class are married or engaged or live with their significant other.
Holy shit!
Yeah,
Christ.
So, and
oh my God,
2 kids. So like for me, it's hard because I look and like these people are living with their like husbands, and I'm like, I got a boyfriend, but he's like however many miles away. So I'm like, oh, well, that must be nice to be able to like with their significant other. So I feel like sometimes I'm behind in life, I guess, because of like that. But at the same time, like I feel like there's a lot to learn from the people that are like older than me, because I bring a perspective of like I'm young and like I just came from undergrad and like I had these classes, and a lot of people have been like removed a couple years from like college, so like I can help them with like stuff like that of like, okay, like here's how you study, here's the new things that are like online, like Quizlet, like that we can use to help us, and like they might have not been that's all. So,
here's how you log on to Zoom.
Yeah. Well, like, Zoom, it was like because we were lucky because we had our like half of the semester was online. And then we graduated, where like these people have been out of school for like 10 years and they're like, what is Zoom? And like everything was on. So it's like we're helpful in that sense, and like we can help the older people in our class that way, but then they could also help us with like some people were like financial advisors, like they came from like all different backgrounds. So like someone's really good at finances, but like I know nothing about finances.
Alexia, I have a question based on what you said. I thought something was interesting. You said that a lot of the people are married or engaged, and that made you feel a little bit behind in life.
Yeah.
What is that? Can you elaborate?
What is that? What is that? like, let's open up your brain and just really dissect it.
I mean, we don't have to. We can literally cut all this out, but I
want
that was
to.
interesting to me. Like, what is that?
Yeah. I guess like I'm like, oh, like should I be like, well, because one of my good friends that I made, she is my age and she's married, and I'm like, oh, like crap, like should I? Like,
Am I behind? Yeah, I get that. Where it's like,
yeah, I'm like, should I be like, should I be sending Dylan pictures of like braids? Like,
you know what's so interesting about your situation in relation? I'm comparing it to mine right now, and it's so interesting because the people that I'm connected with right now, I'm comparing myself to Whitney living with Paul, and to like my friend Carrie pursuing a job that she really likes, like Chris living with his parents. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But you're comparing yourself to these older people that have homes, that have families. It's just such a dichotomy, which like naturally brings so much more stress and really creates so much more of a timeline for you that I feel like you weren't even realizing that it was there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Going into it, we were like, oh, like 4 years, like we'll make that decision 4 years from now.
Yeah. But now you're like, okay, there's a timeline of events, and you kind of see it right in front of you.
And like there's so many, and I don't know if it's because of COVID, but like I just feel like on Facebook I literally see someone like every day that gets engaged, and I'm like, Jesus, like what is it?
I just saw somebody today on my Instagram that was like a year younger than me, and I'm like, I don't want to be married.
I know.
Soon. Like, give me at least until I'm 30.
Get married, having babies.
Yeah.
But it feels like
here
pressure.
I am with literally Pusheen. This is the closest thing I have is literally stuffed animals.
Well, even like Dylan, one of Dylan's like best friends, like she has I think I said one time to Dylan, she has a baby now, and I was like looking at the baby and I was like, oh, this makes me want to have a child, and he was like, I'm gonna pretend I didn't hear you say.
He said, we got a lot more to do, girl. Uh-huh.
Her baby is adorable and she's like a rock star mom, but no.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to have kids?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Can you imagine if we were both just like,
you have all the answers?
If we were both like yes or no.
Can you imagine Lexi was like yes and I was like no? That would have made for a really awkward podcast.
The podcast right there.
Click off. Stop recording.
I envy your certainty on that. Like, how did you become so certain that that's because you both just were like, yep.
Oh, I've just always wanted a family. Like, I mean, ultimately, like I listened to the speaker once, and like for me, it was really hard to like resonate with, but at the same time, like I kind of could, and I really appreciated it. And he was like, he said that he sent this email once. He's a professor. He has a law degree, and now he's a professor of ethics at Colorado State. And he said one time he sent an email to like faculty that he was skipping a meeting, and people were like kind of like complaining and showing back like he should not be skipping this meeting, like their priorities, but he was skipping to go to like his daughter's, like, I don't know, let's call it soccer game. Like it was something of that nature. And his response email back was like, I don't need to be the best ethics expressor, but I can promise you one thing, I'm the best at this entire university. And I just thought that was like just the best thing ever to hear of someone who's like a professional, excellent in his career, and like yet like the rock star dad and knows where his priorities lie. And like that's just someone I want to be. I've always just wanted to be dad, like always wanted to have kids.
Yeah.
It was just like something I grew up with.
I think I've talked to Dylan about this before too, of like I almost like didn't go into vet med because I wanted a family so bad. Like I knew that I wanted to have and I was like, I asked a lot of people, how do you balance, I asked a lot of vets, how do you balance family life and your job? And it's like as a woman now in a field, so the field used to be very male dominated, but now it kind of switched and now it's female dominated. So there's a lot more vets that I could ask, but a lot of the vets I worked for were men. And so when I asked them that question, I was like, well, how do you balance family and life? And like they were like, oh, like I think it's a little different for them than like it would be for a mother that has to take off like to have a baby. And so I was like, I don't know if I could do it. I want to be a good mom. I want to be there for my kids. I want to watch my kids grow up. Like, will I be able to do that as a veterinarian? And I had like serious second thoughts about like switching my major, like because I wanted to be a mom that bad. So for me, it was always like I knew I wanted to be a mom, like going in. I guess, high school.
Wow, I never knew that about you. That's so crazy that
Mhm.
you really just considered your whole career path so you could be
Yeah.
a really good mom.
It's very important to me to be able to like, because I think with growing up,
Your mom was so good to you.
yeah, my mom was always there. My mom was definitely a helicopter mom, but she was always there for me. And my dad was always, I still remember even as a kid, my dad coming home late because he was working a lot, and like that stuck with me. And I like love my dad and respect my dad, and like I know that he had to like work really hard to get to where he is, but at the same time I know that like I don't want my kids to like remember that, I guess, because I still remember my dad like waiting up until he came home, and like I never wanted to be kind of
Yeah.
like that for my kids. So I was like, that's why I had second thoughts about the career, I guess.
You asked like earlier, this goes off this, like about like does what we're doing now prepare us for like later in life? And this goes together because like I would say it 100% does, because like I firmly believe that like education's like power and freedom. Those are the two things that like people told me, and like it's education's not end all. And like I know you guys aren't going to second education, so please do not take this as at all.
You're like, well, Dylan called us out on our podcast, not airing it.
End meeting for all.
Yeah. Well, but like it's something that a lot of people told me, and like those are people in industry and like friends and or like family friends and everything. And like I firmly do believe it, because like, you know, and this is only from seeing internships, like watching the people who were kind of like working for those who were, at least in the science world, like I'm specifically going to talk science world here, like those who were like working for like the scientists versus those who were the scientists. And like there was just a level of freedom that they had. And like I've said to my dad before, I was like, I don't ever care if I get up at 4 a.m. and jump on Zoom calls, answer emails, and do my work. But I was like, I want to get to the point that from about 7:30 when I get my kids up to like 9 a.m. when they have to go to school, I'm going to put my phone down. I'm not touching my email, and I really don't care. But I think like advancing my education is going to put me in a situation where like I can do that, because I will much more quickly become the boss, and I can make people plan my meetings around me.
Oh,
I mean,
period.
but in seriousness, like that's the power of education, and I think in the corporate America, for we say, if you're in science, that's not a wholly applicable substance, but like I think in the science realm, like I mean, Alexia, like imagine life of a tech, you know, a Merc tech versus the veterinarian. I mean, I guarantee it's much more socially acceptable for the veterinarian to come in at 9 a.m. after her kids get off the bus versus the tech.
Yeah, they schedule around you, and I think that's also too why I want to own my own business as a veterinarian, for that same reason of like being able to like dictate kind of like when you can open and when you can close, because like I want to be able to like drop my kids off and then pick them up from school. So that's like another, I guess, in the back of my head is like, okay, if I work hard enough like now, then I can like kind of dictate of like when I'll be able to like have my own hours at some point in my life.
This is so interesting to me. I really appreciate you both sharing your kind of feelings on this. I know it can be a sensitive subject for some people. Alexia, when you ask these other vets kind of like what their hot take is on balancing family and their career, what are they saying to you? The woman.
They said like it's a balance, and like they said you have to ask for what you want. So you have to go into it with an idea of saying, I want this many hours and I'm not willing to like compromise. So you have to go in saying like, I need this for my kids, and like I already thought about it. And so you kind of, and they were like, and now, especially because it's becoming more female dominated, people will understand. And like the field has become more open to like mental health and like wellness as well.
Well, don't vets have like one of the highest suicidal rates or something like that? Because it's just such a toll.
Issue. So people are becoming more aware of that, and as a result are more willing to work with you with your schedule. So it used to be like you would work literally like you would just like work all day and you would come home and you would be on call like all the time. So now they're trying to like respect people's like lives outside of their job. So when I ask them, they always like tell me, they're like, now for you it'll be even better. Like once I become a vet, it'll be even more, they'll respect the life versus
because those women you're asking are going to be your boss that are like, I worked through this.
Yeah,
I got you.
So they're like, they're gonna understand, and they're gonna say like, we know what it's like to like have to work every hour of the day. So like we're now willing to give you that more flexible hours. And now there's more veterinarians too, so there's more to cover shifts. So like you can take different shifts instead of just having one work like all day, every day. So it's definitely becoming better than it used to be, because I think the vet I worked for was like super was older. So like when I asked him, it was a way different answer from like a young woman vet who is like, it's not as bad as it sounds, like it's not as bad as it used to be. There's ways to get like through it. You just have to like go in knowing what you want and like only take that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that. Like at the whole ask for what you need something is like, I feel like
Mhm.
everyone is it's easy to undersell yourself and be
Yeah.
flexible and make people happy and like go and being like, well, I think this is what you want, so it's going to be what I ask for just because I really want to be here and I'm not going to step on your toes. But really, if people want you and you
Yeah.
know that they know you're solid, like I really love that sentiment to ask for what you want no matter what. And people can say no,
Mhm.
and
That's what,
that's okay too.
yeah.
And it can show you, you know, maybe figure
It just
something else
wasn't for
out.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. Tess?
Wow. Sorry. I was just really listening. I think the whole like asking for what you want though, I remember even as a little girl asking questions made me uncomfortable. I just feel like from the minute I was just even as a little girl, I just remember being like, is it acceptable to ask questions and to ask for things that I need? Because I just never really felt like it was like, appropriate or that people would respect you for it. But I think that if anything, asking for what you want and trying to be clear on that gives you more respect because you're actively trying to make yourself more clear. So that's a really interesting point.
All right. So next, we always like to ask our guests kind of just 2 words to describe their post-grad life. Um, so yeah, whoever wants to go first. Alexia, Dylan, Dylan, take it away.
Crazy rewarding. I say that
Oh.
because like crazy because it's been a whirlwind of a semester, both like just like ton going on, COVID, emotionally challenging sometimes, physically challenging, but rewarding because I think right now at the end I'm starting to see like a lot of hard work somewhat come to fruition right now. I'm starting to wrap up and get ahead, like I mentioned, on some projects. My classes seem like they wrapped up very well. Um, and I can already see the growth I've had from June to like now in like the areas to me that's important. So yeah, that's what I'd
Whitney,
say.
are you okay?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, what just happened?
I fidget while we podcast because I really struggled to not do it, and I just dropped a really heavy pen on the wood floor. I'm so sorry.
That was a pen?
I know, it's like you do it for glass.
Like the heaviest pen I've ever heard of. Jeez.
It literally sounded like your laptop like fell, but it was still showing you.
No, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I literally dropped my whole pen. Like, I'm gonna ask you to repeat that because I literally dropped my whole pen in the middle of your sentence. I was just like banging things around like a cat. I'm so sorry. I'll just keep my hands free. I just really am a fidgeter. I really am. Okay,
Okay.
just drink instead.
Should I repeat it? You said?
Yeah, I'm so sorry because I just literally was like banging around like a hooligan.
That's okay. No, I say crazy rewarding. I say that because it was a really tough semester. Well, in terms like I would say busy is probably the best way to describe it. Just because I had multiple projects going on, COVID, just the general transition, classes, but rewarding because I think I'm starting to get at my projects like very well under control. I'm starting to take ownership of them. I'm starting to feel like today I had a call today and I felt like I could drive decisions on this project and answer yes or no to some chat questions that like are genuinely pretty challenging. And it was just so that's like a really rewarding feeling then to see like where I started in June to where I already at in December to know like all right in like 6 months what it's been I can come this far like give
That's
me
so
4 more
good.
so I can come like that I know I'll be able to like well be beyond where I started.
Wow. That's so good. I feel like that's the
Congrats.
best feeling is when you can like self-reflect and see the progress you have made for yourself and for others around you. That's so positive. And I'm really happy for you because I think that that's something that a lot of people are struggling with right now, especially in, post-grad, but also with COVID. So
I started this new habit where I journal every night before I go to bed.
oh my gosh, me too.
Yeah, I write down it's right here.
Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, you like composition. Okay.
Be really surprised. Do you really thought I was gonna have like some?
I I thought it was gonna be like something with plants or something on it, maybe like a little
No.
corn in the corner.
No, I write down what I accomplished today and what I learned today. And then,
Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting. I write what I'm grateful for, but I think that that's something I might start trying.
it's a really good habit. It was a piece of advice one of my lab mates gave me, and I'm really grateful for it because like I feel like in any job you can kind of feel like you're just spinning your wheels. Like, yeah, I've been working on the same dumb project for 10 days and I haven't got any further, but really like you've made incremental, you've accomplished incremental things to get to your overall goal, and it helps you reflect on them when you're not feeling well. And it's been a lifesaver for me. It's been a great like mental habit.
Wow. That's really good. Alexia, your 2 words, madame?
I would say I spent all day thinking about what I was gonna say.
Not even surprised.
I came up with creative connection because I was going for that alliteration. But I think that like because of COVID and because of the way like moving to a new place during a pandemic, I've had to be very creative with the things I come up with of how to like connect with people. And I think that that's been like the theme, I guess, of like my time in Michigan is just trying to like come up with like different ways of how do I, because I'm very extroverted, how do I keep those connections? And even with like old friends in college, because like that's a whole other balancing act too of like staying connected with everyone, of just like having those like Zoom calls like once a month and like making sure that you make time, and making sure you like reach out to all the people, because I honestly feel like because of COVID I've been like reaching out more to people that I probably like wouldn't have had like as much time to, like people from like my high school class. I was just like, hey, you want to call? I was on my Michigan and I was like, literally, who's free? Like, who wants to call me? So just like making sure that you stay connected in a time where everyone feels very disconnected, has been like my goal, I guess, of post-grad life, of just making sure that I come up with like new ways to stay connected in a new world.
Yeah.
I love that, Alexia. And if you have a list that you feel like works for you, let us know and I'll share it with our listeners, because I feel like we've also gotten some other like cool, unique suggestions. And I feel like that could be really interesting to share. So feel free to share it with me and I'll put it out on our Instagram. I think that would be really cool for people to see.
Yeah.
And me. I want to, you know what I mean? Like half of this is selfish, let's be honest.
Do you guys have any other words of wisdom, jewels of advice to hand out to post-grads, or you kind of think you said your piece?
Share? You don't have to have anything.
I'll go quick because I was also thinking about this one. I would say just to like be optimistic, because I think like a big thing, especially like during this time, is like there's a lot of changes and a lot of things going on that like you don't know what could lead to the next step of anything, basically. So just like going in with like a positive big picture idea, I think I've learned is very helpful during post-grad life, especially during a pandemic, because I think me, especially like with my roommate and I, like having, and as president of the class, I hear a lot of the opinions of people in my class, and a lot of them most of the time are negative, and it's generally, I know it's because people are coming to me with concerns. But I think this like keeping in mind that like this is temporary, like be optimistic about it, and like with anything you do, just be optimistic, because most things are temporary. Like it's not going to last forever. So just like come at it with like a light, I guess, instead of like approaching it as like, oh, this is bad, like this is happening. Just like make sure to keep in mind the big picture of like, it might be hard now, but in 4 years, like I'll be able to dictate my hours, or like something like that, I think, because I think sometimes people get so bogged down in the details of everything that they forget that to just think about the more positive side of things. So that would be mine from learning from being president of the class, especially. I've got a lot of practice with thinking positively.
That was really.
Yeah.
Oh,
go ahead, Dylan. No, I was just commenting. Go ahead, Dylan.
Oh, I was just gonna say that was really good.
I appreciate it.
No, it's very true. It is very challenging to remain positive and to not always have negative thoughts. So I think that that's a good piece to kind of carry with everyone, post-grad or not, to kind of remember as we go through this pandemic and through what seems to be another wave of bad news. It's important to stay optimistic even in the midst of that.
Yeah. Because hopefully it's almost done, but we said
we said that that's like a broken record at this point.
We said that in April, so I don't know.
So I'm like, at this point, we just like make the best of it because we don't know what's gonna happen, and it'll teach you a lot about life going forward. That's what they keep telling us. They're like, you'll be more resistant vets. I'm like, but I haven't touched an animal. Like,
if anything, I'm scared now to touch an animal.
I feel like I'm gonna be a horrible vet. But okay.
Oh my God. All right. Well, on that note, I love the positivity. I love like kind of the attitude that you both have, and it's been really great to talk with you. I feel like I'm impressed with who you both are as an individual, and also impressed with who you are for each other as a couple. So it's been really cool to kind of learn more about that and talk to you about your experiences.
Thank you for having us. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
We're fun people.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.